I just want to put some of my thoughts together. I'm here in Bangkok, Thailand, and it's been about 22 months, give or take, since I came to the decision to leave the United States. And I kept putting off telling my story for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't want my story to affect the outcome that I was looking for. I didn't want people to really know too much about how I was feeling at the time. Now I don't think it matters much. But perhaps I could be of assistance in providing perspective for some people who may be thinking in the way I did. Back in 2020, when they had the election and the country was so divided, and it was a terrible time. Just the cancel culture, the Me Too's. If anybody said what they were thinking, they could get fired or lose their jobs or kicked off television. Yeah, it was a bad time. Well, I remember at that time I was a little disgusted with just, I had a friend who politically and ideologically was on the other side of the spectrum from me. And there was times when we would really, really get into each other's aggravation space. But we controlled that, and we were the exception, not the rule. Let me do a little something here with the camera, because I want to put this back a little further so it gets a little bit more of me, but I wanted to be in the center. So it got to the point where we could discuss things without getting angry. He didn't get angry at me. For some reason, anger seemed to be a response that a lot of people had, and I was sick of it. I was literally sick of the anger, sick of the lies. People would just, I say people, sometimes it was people, sometimes it was politicians, but with the political left in the United States the way it was, the media would just come out. I think I got most sick of the media when they would blatantly lie. They'd be standing in front of a burning building saying, "These protests were mostly peaceful tonight," and the place behind them, 50 foot behind them, is on fire. How can you say the place is peaceful and look at the camera live and say, this is just a peaceful gathering and places are burning? Yeah. So I remember it was January 21st, second day after Biden took office. And he canceled a pipeline, and he did a bunch of executive orders, and then the next day he did a bunch of executive orders, and it was just like every one of them didn't make any sense to me at all. It was like, how can you not want energy independence for the United States? It's only going to make matters worse. I guess I foresee things well, but regardless of what you were on, I said, you know something? I'm sitting here and I'm not very happy. That's the bottom line. I'm not very happy. And I was watching some videos on YouTube of people who were traveling around the world. And they weren't seeing those types of problems. They were enjoying themselves. And they were finding welcoming people who didn't hate the fact that they were American. It was just different. So I decided on January 21st that, I'm going to go travel and I'm going to see what the other parts of the world have to offer. And I said, what do I have to do this? And really, it seemed like a daunting task to me. I had house and property and things I needed to. What was I going to do with all this stuff? I lived by myself. I had a huge house, way bigger than what I need. Maintenance was always an issue. Keeping up with everything. Heck, just keeping it clean. And then, of course, we were in the middle of the COVID period. I mean, if you consider that COVID really started in earnest like March of 2020 and only got worse, I'm talking January 2021, the vaccines had just started to be released. I remember seeing various government officials getting their vaccine. The promise of the vaccine was going to prevent you from catching COVID. And see, COVID's one of those things that experience wouldn't help you with too much. I ticked all the boxes. People were dying. They didn't know how to treat it. I ticked all the boxes. I was overweight, and I was older, and those are the people they said were dying. And normally I wouldn't just believe the press, but I have a friend of mine up there in Cincinnati who's a truck driver, and he delivers these containers that they put on the back of the trucks. I remember him posted on Facebook that he'd deliver a container up to Detroit from Cincinnati. And it was a refrigerated container. And he had put on there that they rented that because the hospital up there had no more room to put dead bodies. So now they're saying that older people are dying and overweight people are dying. Raise my hand. And here my friend, Bill, he ended up delivering many of those trailers to the same hospital. If I remember right, it was 4 or maybe even more that he delivered up there. These are big cargo containers that were refrigerated. You could store a lot of body bags in one of those, and they needed 4 of them. And you heard all these people were dying, and here comes a shot, and everybody's got to get the shot, and it's getting crazy. And to be honest, I fell for it. I stayed in the house. I isolated myself. I didn't want to catch it because they didn't know how to treat it. I just read a statistic here in October of 2022 where far less than 1% of the people who now catch COVID actually die from it. Far less. And the vast majority of those people are people who have other conditions. Maybe they're just old. Maybe they're old in a nursing home and would have died in the next 6 months anyway. Maybe they were overweight like me. I don't know. But now it seems to be over with. But no thanks to any vaccines that everybody shoved down your throat and lied to you about. So anyway, that was my story. And I said, well, if I'm going to commit myself to the world, there's a guy that I actually have a lot of respect for on YouTube named Andrew Henderson, who runs a company that helps rich entrepreneurs set up a plan B. And that plan B is like, where do you do your business? Where do you do your banking? Where do you want to reside? Do you want to reside in more than one place? Maybe you don't want to reside in one place. Maybe you want to spend 3 months in one country, and 3 months in another country, and 3 months on another country. You know, that was his thing. And then the other thing was, there are a lot of people who have given up their U.S. citizenship. And that, to me, would have been unheard of 20 years ago. In 2000, give up your citizenship? Why would you want to do that? Yeah. Well, for one, U.S. is about the only country in the world who has citizenship-based taxation. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. Doesn't matter if you not step 1 foot in the United States, they own you. You have to file taxes. You have to pay taxes. Doesn't matter if you didn't take advantage of one thing in the United States, you owe taxes. People who, for example, are dual citizens, maybe their mom came from Canada and their dad came from the United States, and they were born and they become a United States citizen. Well, they could have grew up in Canada from the time they were born and hardly ever went to the United States. But as they grew up into an adult, they're still required to pay taxes. They're a United States citizen. Doesn't matter that, you know, they grew up in Canada, they lived in Canada, they still owe citizenship-based taxation. So a lot of people want to get rid of the United States, and they want to do it for tax reasons. That's not that important to me. But I got to a point where I no longer trusted my government. I mean, I saw things that I wouldn't dream even would happen in the United States a decade or two earlier. But I can't trust them. You know, one day they say one thing and the next day they say something else. So I wanted to get a plan B. So very quickly in my planning, I decided I wanted to obtain at least a second citizenship and a second passport, because the US government, they own your passport. During COVID, US citizens couldn't go to Britain and they couldn't fly into London. Not necessarily because London didn't want them, but their US passport was not good to get on a plane going to London. For one, London, Britain, and the US got into this little argument over this COVID, and you couldn't get there. If you had relatives over there or you had friends over there, you couldn't get there. And if the US decides to flick the switch on the computer and another country checks your passport and they say your passport's not valid, you're not going anywhere. You're in trouble. What are you gonna do? US can make your passport invalid like that. Now there was a time I would say that never happened. But there was a time when you had freedom of speech, you could say what you want, you wouldn't get canceled. I mean, unless you were yelling fire in a crowded theater, you could have a point of view and not be canceled. I don't think that is the case anymore. So I wanted to get a passport. So I did my research. There are about a dozen countries around the world that actually will sell you citizenship if you're a good person. It's called citizenship by investment. There's 5 of them in the Caribbean, But there's others that'll do it too, like Turkey, Montenegro, Vanuatu. Then there's a lot of lesser known programs. Then there's other programs that they have that are like golden visas, where you can get a residence visa, and after a number of years you can apply to be a citizen, that sort of thing. But I did all my research, and I ended up deciding that I was going to spend the money to get a passport and a citizenship in the island of St. Lucia. That's a Caribbean island, and it's a beautiful place. I've never been there. Do I want to live there? Not necessarily right now, for sure. But one of the benefits about being a citizen of the island of St. Lucia is back in the 1970s, they created an East Caribbean community, which is the same thing for Caribbean countries that the European Union did for European countries. And by being a citizen of any of 20 different countries now, all based around the Caribbean, some of them are not islands, like the country of Belize is not an island, but it's in the East Caribbean community. You can go with your citizenship and passport, fly into the country, just stay. You're welcome. You don't need any visas, residence permits, anything special. And 5 of those countries have 0 taxation on income that's not derived on their island. They have 0 taxation on capital gains, dividends, interest. I mean, so it's a low taxation state if you want to live there. And believe me, some of them Caribbean islands are nice. But what I really wanted was, I didn't want the United States government to be able to stop me from being anywhere other than the United States. That was important to me. So all told, they claim that the amount that you have to donate to the country to get this is $100,000, but by the time you're all done, you're more than that. You're 120, 130,000 in time and effort to get it. But it is an insurance policy. It's an insurance policy that will allow me to do 2 things. One, it'll allow me to have places to go if things get bad. It'll also allow me, if I ever wanted to renounce my U.S. citizenship altogether if I get so disgusted with their taxation and with the country in general. I could. I'd have that option. You can't do that if you're stateless. If you're not a member if you're not a citizen of another country, the United States will not allow you to leave the United States as a citizen or renounce your citizenship. So that needed to be done. Other planning things. Growing older, most men have some range of enlargement of the prostate gland. Most men. Some have it worse than others. I was one of the ones that had it worse than others. So as part of the planning to leave the United States, I said, before I go to try to travel, I need to get that taken care of. And I guess I could do a whole video on that, but it literally took 5 months worth of effort and planning. 5 months to see the first doctor, then to see the second doctor, then to get an appointment to go and get the medical imaging so that they could diagnose it further. And then they came up with a recommendation. And only a dozen hospitals in the United States even does that operation that they recommended that I do. And luckily one of those was 100 miles away. But by the time this all got done, it was 5 months. It was in June, and I started this process in February. So February, March, April, May, June, 5 months. But then there was at least 6 months worth of recovery if you're average. Mine took more like 9 months before I was really right again. So I wanted to get that handled. And I wanted to make sure that, you know, all the other medical things I put off during COVID got handled. So you had to worry about that. And then you had to worry about how do you sell your house and do the best you can with that. Do you do preventive maintenance on it? Do you fix it up better than it was? Do you have to make sure that all the T's and I's are crossed as far as, you know, if you need a new roof, do you put it on before you try to sell it? If you need any work done to your sewerage or cavitatte system like my house had, do you do that beforehand? What about insurance? Your cars, all your personal properties, all your hobbies. I had a boatload of musical equipment. Can't take all that stuff with me. I was trying to get down to suitcases. Then what do you put in the suitcases? What do you take? What do you leave? I mean, I started this channel called Plan, Pack, Travel because there was a hell of a lot of planning that went on before I started packing. And then when I finally was able to get the house sold in June of 2022, I'd already sold most of all my belongings. I even wrote a little song. It used to go something like, I sold my house, my cars, my guns. Well, I actually went something like, you only get so many trips around the sun. So I sold my house, my cars, my guns. It's time to go to Thailand and have some fun. That was the gist of it. It wasn't much of a song, but it was something. And I was following all these people over here in Thailand that were making these videos. And the one thing that kept coming out in all these videos was, wow, these people are nice. They call it the land of smiles. And you know, if one person was selling it that way, you could discount it. But I watched video after video of kindness and stories and how they loved it here and so forth. And how just the weather's, you know, always warm. And believe me, this was January 2021. I didn't want to see snow ever again as far as I was concerned. No snow, no cold, no freezing rain, no ice to shovel out off the driveway. I wanted out of all that stuff. Now you don't have to leave the United States to get away from snow. You could just move to Florida, then you get hit with the hurricanes. You know, but the one thing I have noticed since I've wanted to pay attention to the world, you can't escape the weather no matter where you go. You want to go to Florida, you get hurricanes. You want to come to Thailand, you get typhoons. You know, you get rainy seasons, you get dry seasons, you get burning seasons. Nowhere's perfect. So after I sold the house, I still didn't know where I was going to go. I originally had told myself, if I get rid of the house in a summer environment, I'm going to go to East Europe. And I'm going to visit the Czech Republic. And I'm going to visit the country of Georgia, maybe Armenia and Montenegro, and work my way around through Turkey. Originally I thought, well, hey, I'll travel without suitcases everywhere. Well, by yourself, traveling out of suitcases, if you're traveling more than a mere existence, is tough. When I left the United States, I actually had 5 bags. When I left to live out of suitcases, I had 4. It actually grew to 5 because I got tired of packing my bags like playing Tetris. To get everything in, everything had to be in a spot, and use compression cubes, and you had to have so much of this and that in each cube. I had this all documented on paper, but it was a nightmare. And then even once you do get it, it's a nightmare trying to move through airports and move to hotels when you got so many bags. So when I sold the house, that was in June of 2022, we had what I was calling, and the press was calling, Airmageddon. That's right, Airmageddon. 2,000 flights delayed, 1,000 flights canceled, 2,000 flights canceled. They were coming off of the COVID lockdowns. Airlines are still short pilots. They were short planes. They were short stewardesses, that's not politically correct. They were short cabin staff, whatever that is. But all these flights were being canceled everywhere. I didn't want to go to Europe, which was the original plan. So in February, Putin in Russia decides he wants to invade the Ukraine and turn Eastern Europe into a war zone with hundreds of thousands of troops. And nothing's safe when crazy people are running the show. So I said, well, I can't go to Europe. I really didn't want to go to Central America because it was a rainy season, and I really didn't care about that either, for right off the bat. Thailand was always my first pick. But just about when I was ready to try and get a plane to go somewhere, Thailand came out in early June and said, beginning July 1st, you can come to Thailand without any e-visa, e-ticket form, or whatever they're doing. You don't need insurance. You don't have to have a COVID test before you get on the plane and another COVID test after you get off the plane. You don't have to go to a hotel for 1 day. It used to be 14. It got down to 1. You don't have to do any of that. Show up and we'll let you in the country. We're looking for people to come over and visit, so come on by. But that started July 1st. So I said, okay, fine, I'll wait. Now I made my plans that for Airmageddon, I thought if I were to hang around the United States just long enough to wait for July 4th, Thailand will have opened and I can fly nonstop from Dallas to Tokyo and then nonstop from Tokyo to Bangkok. And if I leave on the midday, July 4th, there'll be a lot of people who are already having their July 4th picnics, and they won't be in the air right yet. They will have already reached their families, and they will be having their July 4th celebrations, and the planes won't be that crowded, which I was right. I got out of Dallas very uneventfully and flew to Tokyo. 4 or 5 hour layover in Tokyo, and then flew nonstop from Tokyo, Narita I think is what they call it, into Bangkok. And when I got to Bangkok, all those horror stories about how the lines were horrendously long and you wait forever and you'd have to get your COVID test and then you'd have to sit there till they come back with that test, and then they put you in a van and take you to this hotel and you'd have to stay there for one day and then they'd let you loose. All that stuff was gone. So when I did finally get to Bangkok, I walked up to where the immigration lines were, and I kid you not, I did not stand in line longer than 60 seconds before a window was open. And they merely said passport, COVID vaccination card. You had to be vaccinated. And they wanted the boarding pass. Those 3 items was shown. Boom, boom, stamp in your thing, have a good day, and I was out of there in less than 3 minutes from the time I walked up to immigration, which was great. I mean, that was smooth sailing to get through there. So that's sort of how I got here. And I'm thinking, you know, the world's talking crazy. You know, you get all these financial problems and they're raising interest like crazy, and I'm thankful for being able to get the house sold and get out of there when I did. Lord help me if I was still trying. With the interest rates what they were, price on the house would go down, people's ability to afford it would still go away. You know, it wouldn't been good. So I was lucky there. But you know, I was just thinking how fortunate I was to end up, I wanted to sell the house a lot quicker, but I'm not sure I would have came to Thailand if I had, because they were so locked down. I probably would have ended up somewhere else. And I'm going to make another video and explain to people. I think I figured out why the people in Thailand, for the most part, are so kind and friendly and happy. And it's not a perfect place. No place is perfect, but don't get me wrong. But yesterday, I ended up going with a friend to a Buddhist temple. And they have a practice here called giving merit, M-E-R-I-T, merit. And I don't want to get totally deep into this, but we took a taxi to get to these groups of temples inside the city of Bangkok. And while we were taking a taxi ride, she was talking to the taxi driver in Thai. I'm trying to learn Thai. I know some, but not much. So I turned on my translator app and I transcribed their conversation so I knew what they were talking about. And I kept a copy of it. But the philosophy that these people as a people have about life was being discussed. And merit is sort of like, well, it's hard to describe in 5 minutes, but it's more of committing yourself to those who came before you and made your life possible. And listening to those two's conversation, when we got there, paid for the taxi and tipped, and the guy gave the tip back and he handed it to my friend. And I said, no, that's for you. And then my friend said, she said, no, he wants me to deposit that for him. So he took the tip I gave him and gave to her so she could give it to the temple, which is for a working guy driving a taxi. Very interesting to me. all based on a conversation. But that'll be another video. And I'm not trying to get monetized on this channel, so I'm not trying to hold it for another video so I can make money or something. I gave up on that idea. It's too hard to play the game with YouTube, you know, and make everybody wait to the end to find everything out. But this merit is all based on karma. And because I didn't sell the house early enough, I ended up, and because Putin went to war, those events steered me towards Thailand, and I couldn't be happier that they did. Because now I'm going to be based in Thailand, at least for next year, maybe longer, probably longer, so that I can go visit these other places on a shorter term basis. And that allows me to pack less luggage. You know, hey, do 2 weeks in Malaysia, you don't have to take that much for 2 weeks. And if you forget something, in 2 weeks you'll be back, and next trip you'll remember to take it, or you bought it there, or what have you. But I also realized that it's nice to have a base of operations, place you can come back to, and you know you have towels, and you know you have where silverware is, and you've got a flat screen monitor to go along with your laptop, and your guitar is sitting there on the stand ready for you to play it if you want to. And just the stuff that you don't want to have to drag with you everywhere you go. Because I realize that, you know, living 100% just out of suitcases and moving every couple weeks or a month by yourself, it is a lot harder than with a partner. Because if you got a partner, you can be at the airport and one can go get a rental car or a taxi, and the other one can watch the bags. You don't have to drag them everywhere. You can say, I'll come back and get you if you have a partner. If you're doing it by yourself, and now I've noticed a lot of people on YouTube who do sort of do it by themselves, a lot of them carry a giant backpack and they're young and that's all they got. And if it don't fit in the backpack, they don't take it. Because I guess they figured out it was too hard for them too, so they trimmed down to having virtually very little. So my story was, I ended up here by a little bit of happenstance. I knew that this was my favorite place, but it was locked down. I knew I was disgusted with America, but I couldn't get out of there quicker. I wanted to go to Eastern Europe during the summertime because, hey, Poland and Georgia, Armenia, you know, the Czech Republic, Hungary, those type of countries are really interesting to me, but they get damn cold in the wintertime, and homie ain't doing cold no more. Nope, done, no cold. So I know I told a lot of my friends and a lot of people I've met that I wanted to get this Plan Pack travel channel off the ground, and it was real hard to do. A lot of it was made harder by the fact that I really intended on, hey, I was going to build this channel up like all these other people do, and you know, eventually I'd have a lot of subscribers and people would follow, and I'd take them to neat places. But all that takes time, and I've got other things I have to learn. I'm trying to learn a language. I'm trying to get recertified in some cloud technologies. I study a lot, and it takes a lot of time. This video here, just I wanted to reflect a little bit. I'm talking sort of to myself. I'm explaining to myself where I ended up and how I ended up, sort of just justifying in my own mind that I've done the right thing. I've met some really neat people here. I put out a video about the healthcare here. It's astounding. I mean, some of the healthcare is 10% the cost and better than what I had in the United States. It's absolutely incredible. When I got COVID a few weeks back, I had already made arrangements with a personal physician here. And she runs a wonderful clinic that's open 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I tested positive for COVID, and they've got these medicines now that they can give you for COVID after you test positive. And I checked with the GoodRx price for what they gave me. And in the United States, it would cost anywhere from $700 to $900 or so for that medicine. But when I got sick, I sent email over with a picture in the email of my test that showed I was positive and asked them for what I wanted. Doctor recommends something different, but within 2 hours and 15 minutes, the medicine was at my door, at my condo, delivered. And not for $700 plus a doctor's visit that somebody without insurance would pay in the United States. And I'm over here, I have catastrophic insurance, but I don't have insurance that's going to pay ordinary doctor bills or anything. I mean, if I have something serious, it'll pick up a little bit, there. But I pay cash. Over there, it'd be, a doctor's visit plus $700. Here, the entire bill was $83. The entire bill delivered to your door in 2 hours. I don't think I could talk to my doctor in 2 hours in the United States. If I needed to go see a doctor tomorrow morning on a Sunday at 7 o'clock, no problem. Just show up. They'll let you in. They'll be there. They'll give you some attention if you need it. That's just at the doctor's office. So it was a lot of circumstances that led me to here, but I'm really glad I'm here right now. I've never in my life lived in anything I would call a large city, not a mega city, not a LA, Chicago, or New York City, a mega city. I never lived there. And Bangkok is twice the size in area and in population of New York City. And it's the most visited city in the world, and you can get anything in the world you want here. You can live like a king. You can get treated like a king, even if you don't deserve to be. You can get food catered or eat out every night of the week for a fraction of the cost. I had, what was it? It was stewed pork leg, rice, and egg. That was about $1.35 or something like that. Roasted duck with rice, a meal was $1.35 or so. I mean, it's just incredible. Those are $20 meals or more in the United States if you go out to eat them, and they're, $1.50 US here. I mean, it's nuts. You can eat out and live like a king here. So I'm very fortunate. I apologize for not putting out more videos, but I'm going to put out more because all the thumbnails are going to be the same. There's just going to be a title, what they're about. I'm going to show you some interesting stuff. Some of the upcoming videos are going to be, I've got a really deep discussion about why the people in Thailand are so kind and such good people, and why the crime rate here is really exceedingly low. They have crime, but for a city twice the size of New York, I bet their crime's only 1%. I mean, violent crime, robberies. I mean, they do have, from what I understand, there is a potential to have somebody pick your pocket if you're in a real crowded place. They do have people who are pickpockets, but they aren't shoving people in front of subway trains here. You know, they're not stabbing you in the subway here. That's a very it's a very, very rare item. Today I saw in the news where two tourists from Sweden driving a Porsche jumped out of the car and kicked the living crap out of a poor Thai guy. And it was caught on security cameras and on everybody's cell phone cameras. And the police promptly put him in jail. And believe me, you get put in jail here, don't count on a cashless bond, and you'll just be out on the street tomorrow. You don't want to go to jail here. Don't get in trouble. But it's not the Thai people. I mean, it's pretty bad. The tourists come in, create more problems than the Thai people do. Theft is so low here that, I mean, I literally don't worry about it. Street vendors leave their carts on the street and they never pick them. I mean, overnight, they'll leave their carts with supplies on it and just put a tarp over it. Nobody will touch it. These people are not thieves. There's some, but not like the big cities in America. And do they have homeless? Yes, they do. They have people who are living very poor. And the hardworking people, they have what we would call slums. Their low-end housing here is filled with working people. And there's an area, Klong Toi. I haven't went there personally, but I saw a video on it. I'd like to go there. And the place is full of people who have jobs and they work. And they live in housing from really bad to marginal. But they can't own the housing and nobody does. The land is owned by the government. The buildings are owned by nobody except the people who are in them. And the government allows them to stay on the land. And there's like that one area has 800,000 people in this one area living what we would call living in the slums. But most of the people have jobs. They just live in a very low rent environment, and the government allows them to stay there. And they say there's 1.2 million people because 300,000, they say, are not registered as actually living there, but are. And from everything I've seen, the people there are just so friendly and nice, even though they're living in unbelievable low rent conditions. But I think it all goes back to how these people are raised and how families are here. Family is a whole different story from everything I've seen so far compared to what we have in the United States, the way they think about it. But that video is coming. It's all going to be about merit. So that one's coming up very shortly and should be quite interesting. So this has gave me a lot of time to think, and hopefully to my friends, they'll let you know where I'm at. But believe me, I haven't been happier in very long time. 5, 6, 7 years since I've been this happy. I'm having fun every day. I've met some very interesting people, and I'm in the process of getting what they call a non-immigrant retirement 1-year visa, which can be renewed. And I found an attorney that handles all that headache for you. Not cheap. You could do it cheaper if you say you want to do it yourself. You don't need an attorney. If you want to go through all the headache yourself, you can do it less less expensive. So I was able to get that in the works. That'll be a couple months, because later in November, I plan to go to the island of Phuket for a week over the Thanksgiving week. I've got a friend, I'm gonna take her. We're gonna go down there and have a good time dead on the beach. But Phuket's in bad shape right now. They've had the worst rain than they've had in over 35 years. And the island of Phuket, the entire island, which is about 50 miles long, so it's not a little place. It's about 50 miles long, I think about 40 wide. But almost every part of the island's flooded. From almost every street's got knee deep to hip deep water. And it's been that way for like 3 days. And it just won't stop raining. It's not like they've got a hurricane. It just won't stop raining. It's like somebody ought to call Noah and tell him to get his carpenter tools together. If it don't stop raining soon, he's going to need to build another one. So if that clears up, I'm looking forward to taking that trip. And then maybe, if I'm lucky, I'll be able to create some videos from Phuket. And then maybe in December, I'll be able to create some videos from Malaysia, from Kuala Lumpur. Take a little trip down there and then come back to my base. And then once I'm done with my travel, then they'll convert my education visa over to the O visa. It's probably the only thing I don't relish about Thailand is they make it difficult to go through all the paperwork to stay here longer than the average vacation. They did increase it though. If you come to Thailand as an American citizen or any one of 65 different major countries, you can walk in the gate and they'll just stamp you for 45 days, and you can go to their immigration office anytime in that 45 days and extend it for another 30 before you'd have to leave. So that's 75 days you can get just showing up and not too much hassle. But after that, it's a hassle. Whereas compared to like the Philippines, you can go to the Philippines and you can apply and they'll give you, I think, a 1 year without much hassle. And then you can extend that up to 3 years worth of time. And then at 3 years, all you have to do is take a trip somewhere, have lunch and come back, and they'll start you all over with another year up to 3 years. So, I mean, they want you to come and be there without as much hassle. But you know, the immigration getting in the United States not a picnic either. So Thailand's not easy, but let me tell you, I was so bored where I was. I'm never bored here. There's always something to do here. And that's good. That'll keep you young. By the way, yesterday, my watch came on at 10:30 and said, "Congratulations, this is a record exercise day for you." And all I was doing a lot of walking. And I walked more steps than I've walked in the last 4 years. Then I got back to the condo and pretty well was done. Pretty well collapsed. But had a ball. So who knows? Maybe I'll either get healthier or kill me, one of the two. So thanks for listening to me try to get my thoughts together on what I'm doing. But right now I'm happy to be in Bangkok. I'm happy to be studying. And I want to really learn the Thai language. Oh yeah, there's a video coming up of this nifty little gadget I got. These amazing little earbuds. You put one in one ear, you give one to your friend, and whatever you say in English, is translated real time into Thai, into their ear. Whatever they say in Thai is translated real time into your ear in English. Just got them, haven't tried them, looking forward to it. And I'm going to make a video about this because this is brand new technology and it is slick as snot if it works as good as they advertise it does. So thanks for watching. And leave comments if you have any questions and I'll try to help you. Bye.